again, and welcome to the Sports Box, where the only opinion that matters. There's another one coming. Right here! That's right. I am Mike Galetta, a.k.a. Hamilton Mike, along with my partner Brian, the Ranger Tar, bringing you another solid. Do I even have to say solid special?
They're all solid.
Oh my God, so solid.
It would be shocking if they weren't.
That's very true. I like that. Today we're going to talk about fantasy start and sits, but first we're going to talk about a little bit about injuries in the league. You know, I just find it ironic that there's been more and more injuries, it seems like, this year. I don't want to say than any other, but it just seems like every year the injuries are on the rise. And I think personally it's because of the contract that was signed a while ago by the players' contract that makes them not hit and practice a lot. You know, your body's not used to getting hit all the time, so all these injuries, naturally these guys going full speed that are, you know, faster, stronger, quicker. All these injuries are happening. You talk about Adrian Peterson now, you talk about Doug Martin. There's guys out there that are getting hurt that I don't think should be.
No, and you know, it puts a really big wrench into fantasy plans. I mean, a lot of these guys that were drafted top 2, 3 rounds, you know, Gronk hasn't played a game yet. Peterson's now pretty much out for the season. Jamal Charles, I thought, played a game yet. But, you know, it's going to keep a fantasy owner on their heels as far as what to be doing, but it does open up opportunities, again, you know, for guys like a Jerick McKinnon in Minnesota or a Spencer Ware, as you've seen in Kansas City. So it's next man up, and I think as a fantasy player you have to be aware, you know, of guys that have propensity to get hurt. Make sure you have their backups. It could be a lottery ticket that works out for you.
Charles Sims, you see D'Angelo Williams, that's not an injury, but that's just another role that a backup plays in there.
Even Martellus Bennett last week had a real nice game in place of Gronkowski.
And that's the beauty of fantasy football, is trying to find the gems. So let's get to start and sit. First of all, quarterbacks start this week. I think you got to start Matty Ryan, even though a lot of people are, you know, Matty Rice, most overpaid player in the league. And I agree with that to an extent with the quarterback. But you know what? You got to start him this week in New Orleans. Their defense is terrible. Matty Ice has been rolling so far. Riding while he's hot, you got to start Matt Ryan.
And on that Matt Ryan bandwagon, he played this team this week. They played the Raiders. Marcus Mariota plays the Raiders this week, and they are ranked last in the league with points against the quarterback. He should have a pretty big day. He's not a guy you maybe drafted to start, but you know, if you have a guy maybe like Dalton that you're starting, you want to start Mariota over him this week, I absolutely support that. I think he has a big day against the Oakland Raiders. For
sitting at quarterback, I think you got to sit Matt Stafford at Green Bay. Green Bay, a little bit, I think, on a bounce back week. They're playing home. Matt's been rolling a little bit, but you know, even though with that supporting cast he has there, I just think Green Bay's going to be too much for him this week. I think you got to sit Matt Stafford.
I would be sitting Tyrod Taylor of the Bills going up against the Arizona Cardinals. He had a nice game statistically last week, but it was a lot of those, you know, deep passes that happened to hit against the Jets. They're going up against the Cardinals defense. I don't like a matchup in any way from that standpoint. But also, there's a new offensive coordinator in Buffalo, so you don't really know how that's going to play itself out. I'm just staying away from Tyrod Taylor this week until it shakes itself out.
And that was one of my picks as well. Tyrod Taylor, crossed it off, just take Matt Stafford.
There you go.
The running back-wise, start-wise, Brian thinks I'm nuts here, but I think I'm a hell of an analyst here. So I'm going to take Frank Gore. Indianapolis playing at home against San Diego. San Diego's run defense is terrible. Frank Gore, although he hasn't played well in the first 2 games, I think he has a better game this time. I think he goes over 100 yards and sees the end zone. I think you got to start Frank Gore.
On that point, though, if Frank Gore has a big game, all you Frank Gore owners, sell. Ring the register.
Bail on him.
Ring that register, yeah. I'm going to go a little close to home for my start of the week. I'm going to start Charles Sims of the Bucs against the Rams. Doug Martin's out for a couple weeks here. He's going to be the guy, catches balls out of the backfield. I think he's going to have a pretty big role this week against a Rams team that's played pretty well. At least last week they played pretty well against Seattle. But I think you're going to see Tampa use him a lot. I'm liking Charles Sims this week as a start.
Even if Jacquez Rodgers is there, former Atlanta guy, I don't think it makes a difference. I think Charles Sims is a good play too. Sit-wise, I think for all you people out there who picked up Jerick McKinnon, knowing that, you know, Adrian Peterson's not playing this week, I think you got to sit him. I don't see it. They're playing in Carolina. Carolina does have a stout defense, and although he is going to get a lot of carries, I don't think it's going to be a productive game for him at all.
And you mentioned tough matchups. You know, Jeremy Hill of the Bengals going up against the Denver Broncos, who, again, arguably the best defense in the league. You're going to have better options elsewhere at running back. I like him a little bit less than Bernard. I don't dislike Bernard as much because he catches balls, but I just don't think Jeremy Hill's got to get in the end zone for you. I don't see it this week. I'm staying away from Jeremy Hill.
It's all about catching balls, isn't it?
That's right.
That's right. That's right. And slide that in there. And wide receiver-wise start, I actually love this pick, and I love all my picks, but I love this pick more than ever. I got to start Sterling Shepard from the Giants this week. Playing home against those Washington Redskins, who stink, by the way. You know, Norman's going to be on coverage on Beckham all day long. He's going to be the guy left out. I definitely think here's a rookie that's making a point this year to have a good year. Eli's throwing at a great clip, playing well this week. The Giants are playing well. The Giants are playing well this week. got to start Shepard this week in your lineup. Yeah.
A guy who I wasn't big on going into the season, but he has a lot of injuries around him. Travis Benjamin of the Chargers going up against the Colts. This Charger offense is hurting all over the place. Keenan Allen's out for the year. Woodhead's out for the year. You're hearing now that Antonio Gates might be limited if he plays at all. You might see Travis Benjamin catch a lot of targets coming from Phillip Rivers against especially a bad Colts pass defense. And the Colts are probably going to score some points. So it's going to be an air-it-out game. I'm loving Travis Benjamin this week. Especially also if you're in a league that gives you return yards. I believe he's their returner as well.
And on a quick note, Antonio Gates hurt again. Boy, it's a shame they got rid of Green in the offseason, isn't it? Boy, younger guy, get rid. Anyway, you still don't know special, you know what I'm talking about. Anyway, in the sick column for wide receivers, I got to sit Emmanuel Sanders. Here's a guy who's in the past snuck in there, got some good games, really gave you some extra points. He's done nothing this year. Right now, they're going to be playing in Cincinnati. You know what? It's not a horrible matchup, but here's a guy who's not getting the ball. I'd say he's a fourth wide receiver right now. If you have him, I wouldn't start him.
I do not want to start Jeremy Maclin this week against those New York Jets, and I know that Darrelle Reeves has had a tough start to the season. I think he's too talented for that to keep up. I think he has a bounce-back game this week, and he's going to be on Jeremy Maclin because he's a primary pass catcher, for those Chiefs. So I think you're going to have better options. This might be a week to stay away from Jeremy Maclin.
In the start column for tight ends this week, I got to start the gunslinger Jesse James against the Eagles this week because you look at the Philadelphia defense. Although they haven't allowed that many points, they've gone up against Gary Barnidge and Zach Miller as tight ends. Not really the schemes that are going to open up like the Steelers. Roethlisberger's going to have that extra weapon. He's been getting it to Jesse James lately. I think it's a good start. I think he has a good game.
And James might be a guy actually for a guy who has maybe like a Gates, or maybe a Zach Ertz. Yep. Some injury issues there. I think he's definitely a guy you could look at as a waiver wire pickup. I'm going to be starting Delanie Walker this week against the Raiders. He's Mariota's top passing option. Mariota's my quarterback of the week. Delanie had a real nice game last week. He's really underrated. That Tennessee offense is not going to blow you away, but he's their stalwart. They're steadying pace, and I think that Mariota looks for him. I think he has possibly a 10-catch game this week against the Raiders. I'm loving him this week in that game.
In the sick column, I'm going to start Gary Barnidge. Here's a guy who last year, and we talked about him on our show, that had more fantasy points every week than Gronkowski. And the guy was tearing it up at one point. But right now in 2 games, the Browns are a mess. He's not getting the ball. And now you're going to start Cody Kessler this week? No. I'd stay away from Garrett Barnes. If you have another option, take a look at it because the Browns are an absolute train wreck right now.
And on my tight end, I'm staying away from Eric Ebron this week against the Packers. The Packers haven't been great against the tight end so far this season, but I just think that it's a deep week at tight end, and you'll find some better options. I'm not buying Stafford this week myself, and that's probably why I'm not really feeling Ebron, but yeah. I just don't think he's going to have that much of a game. I'm staying away from him this week.
In defenses, I'm going to start, that's right, folks, let's slide it right over here. I'm going to start those Tampa Bay Buccaneers at home against the LA Rams. That's right, let's go to the old school, there we go. This is their home opener, the Bucs. They are playing the LA Rams, who have to cross the country after having that 9-3 shootout in Seattle. That's disgusting how the Rams are 1-1 and not scored a touchdown yet. Got to take the Bucs. The Bucs are giving up the fewest yards rushing to any team so far. If you didn't know that, you know it now. And like I said, the Rams have Case Keenum. Case friggin' Keenum. Got to start the Bucs this week.
You don't need me to tell you this, but if you have the Seattle Seahawks defense, you start them this week because they're playing the 49ers. Yep. I can see a couple pick sixes here. I just think that Seahawks have had a rough start to the season. They're not happy after losing to the Rams last week. I think they're going to take it out all over Blaine Gabbert and the 49ers.
And the 49ers will
I think it's going to be bad. You might actually see the Seahawks defense score more points than the Niners offense. I can totally see it happening. I love Seattle this week, and again, you don't need me to tell you that, but just the obvious.
Do you like Seattle at all this week, though?
I like Seattle this week a little bit. Captain Obvious,
there it is. Captain Obvious. I like it. I like it. Sitting defensively, we had a little debate about this before, but I'm going to sit the Jets this week playing Kansas City. Here's a team, the Kansas City Chiefs, that Alex Smith throws a little bit, but doesn't really throw a lot. They had to throw last week to get back in the game, but Kansas City's basically a heavy run team. Ware's going to get the ball, and West might get in there, get some carries. I think they're a heavy run offensive team, and I don't think the Jets can handle that. So I don't think you start the Jets this week.
I'm going to stay away from the Vikings this week, going up against the Carolina Panthers. And the Vikings have been phenomenal the first 2 weeks. Had a great week, one with a couple touchdowns. Week 2, they played well against Green Bay. There's just a lot of uncertainty with that team right now. They're going into Carolina, who had a 40-point-some-odd game last week. You don't know what the offense is going to look like without Adrian Peterson. It's Sam Bradford's second game. If Bradford throws a pick or two that go back the other way, that hurts your defensive score. And Carolina is known to do that. So the Vikings probably weren't a team you drafted to be a starter, or maybe you did. There's probably some other options that are there. I just don't like them this week against Carolina, but they're going to be a good defense the rest of the year. This week, not so much.
You got to watch out for Minnesota's bus getting looted too in that area. I mean, that's just a train wreck right there. Which God
bless all those people, and hopefully our fan base is staying.
And I'm really surprised that the game is going on right now. I mean, I'm guessing things are going to die down by then, but you know, let's just, you know, I'd say pray for those people there. It's getting a little crazy there, so you know. Good luck to the Minnesota Vikings anyway.
For sure.
So that's all the time we have for the Sports Box. Keep an eye out. We got some winter stuff coming. You got the NBA starting soon. You got some NHL specials coming soon. And Brian's looking at his chops with the NHL, and I am too, about the NHL. So we'll have some great specials on you. Remember, we always have stuff new on.
And of course, the best place to find our new stuff is by following us on Facebook, following the Twitter handle @SportsBoxShow, and of course, as you know, they know.
If they don't know by now, you're living in the
Subscribe to our channel on YouTube. It's that little screw-looking thing or whatever it is at the top of the page. It says
screw-looking.
That's what it looks like, a screw or a gear, whatever. It says subscribe.
What he said.
Yeah, just subscribe to it. You're gonna enjoy it. You'll make sure we know everything as it's coming out for you. You'll be the first one to know.
I remember I'm putting the red light on because the red light hasn't been on in a while. So remember, at the Sports Box, the only opinion that matters is right freaking here. Remember it. It's right here. From Brian, from me, our fantasy picks. Keep an eye out for them. See ya.
Don't forget to subscribe.